So here we go. I gotta open it up. Let's see what I got. Give me 1 minute to get it open. I'm in the wrong spot. So our first reading is coming from Nathan Cole. And the first question is, what's his occupation? Is basically, so I'm going to pull a name. Appreciate the hands going up. We'll do that. Amanda Cochran's not here. Matthew, first up.
It seems he's a farmer because he's in the field with tools and have horses.
Okay. Good deductive reasoning. All right. Anybody add to that? Anything else you thought? You thought he was something else? Any other reason you think he's a farmer? It's pretty straightforward. This is a pretty straightforward question to start us off. Kyle?
It's very similar. Brian thought he might be a farmhand, or maybe like like something like along the lines that maybe he rides like so he directs like the cattle where to go, and he has a tool for that or something.
Okay. Why? Any reason for that?
No, I just something that crossed my mind, and I don't know much about farming, so I don't know.
Mhm. It's difficult because back then pretty much everyone would have some type of a field because you had to grow your own crops. So it has to be some. Possible indentured servant? Maybe. And he looks like he only has one horse. So he doesn't have several horses. But he says he's in his field, so that sounds like it's a farmer, like he owns the field. But I think it's safe to say he's probably a farmer. That's what we see. However wealthy he is or something, we don't know for sure. But something like that, possibly a farmhand. Not fully sure, but good. Okay. Let's see, that's Matthew. If I don't know your name, I'm going to say, what's your name? I'm calling you, okay? Hopefully this will help me learn you guys. All right, next up, Rachel. What does this account tell us about the fame of George Whitefield and his influence?
It shows us that he was like a well-known and influential person because, like when they heard that he was there, everyone was like riding on their horses racing to see him.
Okay, so you got lots of horses racing to see it. Good. Anything else? Give me some more. Jackson shows how famous he is.
I think it showed because, like, during that reading, it really emphasized just how chaotic it was amongst all the other people trying to get to see him or hear him. So it showed just how entirely devoted everyone was to getting the opportunity to listen to him speak.
All right, good. So you got whole crowds going. Maria?
It said that he converted great numbers of people to Christ.
Okay. So lots of converts. That's showing us that lots of people come to see him. His fame. Good, Nathan?
It also taught, or Nathaniel Cole or whatever, he says that he has wanted to see Whitefield's like a sermon from him for a long time,
Okay.
and I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, he wants to. He's been wanting to try and meet and be present at one of his sermons.
Okay. So he's famous enough that Cole has heard about him, hoping he will come, and now he's going to go see him. So that shows some element of being well known. Okay. Good. Other things that you saw in here.
I just think it was actually, it made it even more clear that it said nobody was even working. Like, he was so famous that it literally brought the
Good.
entire town out of their houses, out of their jobs for the day.
Okay, so Cole's not an outlier. That's what that shows us. It's not like, oh, he knows him. Everyone knows him, and they're going to come see him. Okay, excellent, good. Anything else? And part of the reason we're doing this, about 20 or 30 years ago, a scholar released a book called Inventing the Great Awakenings, and he said, basically argued the Great Awakenings weren't that great. Like, they're small revivals. And in all my research, I don't think so. When I see things like this and some of the stuff I'm giving you here today, it shows me that it was widespread. So this isn't much of a celebrity culture back then. We are now, and here we see several accounts of that show that it's widespread, I think. So he talks about places he's heard that he was at: Long Island, Boston, Northampton, Hartford, Wethersfield, Middletown. He's preached in all those places. That shows it's widespread. Let's see. He compares him to Jesus. Many thousands flocking to hear him preach. Great numbers were converted to Christ. That sounds a bit like Jesus. How do you describe the massive amount of horses? What were some things that he described with that? Like, what was the atmosphere like?
It was like dusty, right? Because
Massive amounts of dust.
Oh yeah, it was like, you couldn't really see in front of you because all the horses.
Okay, they're packed in, they're all riding together. They're eerily silent, which I think is interesting. Like, I don't know what that means, but all these people riding together, it's not like they're yelling and screaming. They're all very committed to try and get where they're going. It says when they got there, they're covered in dust. It says ferry boats were coming.
He also said that, like, when he first saw the dust, he thought it came from the river.
Good, but it's just this massive amount of people, so it's that big of a kind of a dust storm coming up, which we're used to here, but not so much in New England. All right, good. So all I'm doing right now is I'm writing, like, after you answer something, boom, I put a plus mark down if it contributed to it. We want to get everybody one. That'd be great. All right, next question. How much effort does Cole put in to see Whitfield? Again, it looks like Whitefield. He's British, pronounced Whitfield. Jackson.
He traveled like around 13 miles on horseback and on foot to hear this guy.
Okay.
As I'm assuming lots of other people did as well. And he went home and got his wife and everything.
Okay.
So, Cole seems pretty determined to hear this guy.
Okay. So that's a long way on horseback, 12 or 13 miles. He grabs his wife, travels. Okay, good. Other things? Diego?
It also said like he dropped his tool, like what he was doing, and he sprinted straight home.
All right, so he stopped his work. Farmers don't do that too often. So he dropped everything, grabbed his wife, rode. Oop.
You've been like waiting for him to come to town for a long time too.
Okay, so he's been anticipating this moment. Good. Maya, right?
It says that, like, him and his wife were on the horse, and the horse was getting tired, but they didn't stop and kept going.
What did he do?
He kept running.
Okay, so he's determined enough that he jumps off and runs beside the horse till he's tired. Then he gets back on the horse and they ride together. So they are hightailing it over there as fast as they can. Okay, anything else? He describes it, he used this phrase as he was, let's see, we improved every moment to get along as if we were fleeing for our lives. So that's pretty significant. So could there be a single person that could show up in Phoenix in which you would drop everything you're doing, like travel along, so let's say 12 miles on horseback, like an hour. So let's make it not Phoenix. Let's make, what, is Tucson an hour away?
No, it's like 2.
Is it 2? What's an hour away? Flagstaff?
Maybe like
Like Globe.
Payson?
Globe.
Globe? Yeah, there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So let's say, who could show up in Globe where you would drop everything, your parents would get you out of school, and you would head there to see them?
If Jesus came back.
Jesus, okay. All right. I do that too. Like, I can't think of anybody. Like, we're a celebrity culture, and there's lots of celebrities, but I can't think of anyone where I'd be like,
I would do that.
Not any
I-
like real person.
I don't think so either.
Like maybe like a character, but not like a real.
Like Superman.
Harry Potter.
Thor.
There it is.
Harry Potter. Can you think of anybody? Anything? I can't. So this is pretty unique. Now they're not a celebrity culture, so just that makes it unique. Like this, have someone this famous, but that shows his fame. That these guys would be willing to do that when I can't think of a time I would do it. I can't think of anyone I would ride and go out to see this quickly. Where like you guys being here, it's like, guys, I'm shutting down class, head to Pitt's room, and I'm out because I got to go see this person because they're going to be here. Can't think of it. So that just kind of shows it, and I think that kind of puts it in perspective for me when I look at it. All right, Kyle, question number 4. What message does Cole's statement, I saw that my righteousness would not save me, then I was convinced of the doctrine of election, went right to quarreling with God about it because all that I could do would not save me? What's that reveal about Whitfield's teachings?
I think it says that he believes that no matter, well, I mean, not he believes, but like what he's trying to say is, no matter how good you think you are, no matter how self-righteous you are, I guess in a sense, you're not going to get into heaven unless you are devoted to God and just being a good person and being, trying to help
Okay.
Sin.
Okay, good. So very convicting sermon here about it's not by works you're saved. Good. What else did you guys put down? What did you think for this? Caleb?
Just wrote down you can't save yourself.
Okay. So this is salvation by faith alone through grace alone. We're clearly getting that. Name?
Kylie?
Kylie, thank you.
I said that it could mean that George spoke about the fearful side of God, because Cole talked about trembling with fear after the sermon.
Okay, so this is a time in which we call them hellfire and brimstone preachers. Like there's definitely, you got Jonathan Edwards, The Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. We'll talk about that. So good. Probably a bit of a scarier sermon. Jackson?
What I got from what Cole had said after the sermon was, I'm assuming that Whitfield's message was based on the predestination subject.
Okay, good.
Because it made it sound like Cole felt hopeless about his faith, and it made it sound like he believed that there was no way for him to earn an eternal life.
Okay, so clearly predestination. Now, you guys heard of predestination, Calvinism?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll cover that more. I'm sure you've covered it to some extent. But in your experience, do many pastors preach on that in like an evangelistic sermon? No. Okay, it's not really your go-to, like, let's win people to Christ by telling them about predestination. That's part of Whitfield. Like, that was a part of what he taught. Also shows kind of that age, and Nathan Cole wrestled with this. So I don't know, the first time you heard it, I remember being in a Bible study and a friend of mine presented it, and I was angry. I was like, this makes me mad. Like, I don't know that I like this. And I wrestled with it, and that's what Cole's doing here. Nathan, we're going to say something similar?
Yeah, I said it would cause Cole to potentially like reevaluate his life
Okay.
and what he was doing with it.
Absolutely. So I think this is cool because it shows you kind of the difference today. Most of our pastors wouldn't bring this as part of their message. But at the time, Whitfield was he believed in Calvinism, predestination. The other guy we're going to talk about, Wesley, he was a free will Arminian. So believing that you made a decision, not believe in predestination. And they were buddies, and yet they didn't get along theologically here. They had some pretty strong words for each other, and they split for a period of time before kind of coming back together. But they're two of the greatest preachers of this time. So good. All right, let's go down to the third one. Let's skip the second one, because the third one, again, talks about Whitfield. So the one on Benjamin Franklin. So scroll on down. Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, 4 questions here. Let's see how far we get. Booth, first up. How does Benjamin Franklin's account support that the awakening was widespread? So we looked at Cole's account, and we're going to look at Franklin's.
I mean, he basically says, I took a quote from it. It says, it seemed as if the world was becoming religious.
Okay.
Which supports the widespread awakening.
Very good. Direct quote from Franklin. Why does that carry even more significance with it being Franklin?
Because Franklin's a significant historical figure.
Good. What is he not?
A religious person.
He's not a religious person. Okay, he's not Christian. He's what we call a deist. Anybody remember what deism is?
No.
Is it just belief in a higher power?
Good. Okay.
Agnostic?
Not quite agnostic. They believe there's a God, but it's similar, but they don't believe you can know him. So agnosticism is pretty close, just like I don't think we can know if there's a God or not. Deists are like, oh, there's a God, but he kind of wound up the world, let it run its course, and isn't involved in it. So Franklin always likes religion because he thinks it's good for people, but he himself doesn't believe Christianity has much truth. And yet, he's so fascinating because at the end of his life, at the Constitutional Convention, he stops everyone and says, like, hey, let's pray. We're having a hard time right now. Well, let's pray to God and ask him to help us because his hand's clearly been on us this whole time. And it's just like, whoa, what just happened there? I've got a great book up there on Benjamin Franklin and kind of his religion, like what he actually believed. He's a fascinating figure to me. I like Franklin a lot. Matthew.
It also said that his sermons and stuff got printed.
Good.
So that makes it more widespread.
Nicely done. You're the first one to say that today. So that right there shows that it's widespread. If you're going to print it, people are going to buy it. It means people want to hear it. Yeah, Diego.
It also said that like almost every street he went on, Psalms were being sung.
Nice. Where does Franklin live? No. Yes, Philadelphia. Anybody been to Philly? No one in this room been to Philadelphia? No cheesesteaks? Anybody had a Philly cheesesteak at least?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, those are good. Philly, not exactly a town where you think you're going to be hearing, now this is obviously in the past, but where you think you're going to be hearing worship songs, okay? I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. They're notorious for, on one of their football games when it snowed, they brought out Santa Claus, and the fans all just pelted him with snowballs, and Santa had to run away. So it's a rough town, and here with Franklin's time,
That's funny.
he's like, I can't walk anywhere without hearing someone sing a worship song. Like, that's remarkable. I mean, that's the mark of a revival. When anywhere you go, you hear people worshiping God. So pretty cool. So good job, Diego, on that. Anything else? Shows it's widespread. Shows the fame. What did they construct in Philadelphia? Did I catch that?
It wasn't the Liberty Bell.
No, not yet. Matthew.
They built a house for it or something like that.
Good. So,
Oh,
yeah.
they built the pulpit for people who aren't part of the normal church to come and preach at, like Muhammad followers or, I mean, whoever.
Yeah, basically an open air preaching pulpit, right? For anyone to come and preach at, which again shows that it's widespread. I told you about this about the revival lasting 20 years. Like, it's happening enough that people are coming through, and even Franklin's behind this. Like, well, let's build a place where people can preach when they come, and people can come hear them. Just shows that it's common for preachers to be coming into Philly and do it. Okay, let's go on. Next one. It says Booth. Bell's not here. Luke, give examples of Whitfield's oratory skills.
We got Mr. Franklin to not only give his money, but empty his pockets, which he was firm on not doing at the beginning of the sermon.
All right. Again, very impressive, because remember, Franklin knows him. Franklin's a deist. He's determined not to give any money, and then by the end, boom, he's given all his money. Pretty impressive for someone who's got a brain like Franklin. Maria.
It said that his words were very clear and everyone was able to understand him, and it was like pretty loud so everyone could hear.
Great. So let's talk about the loudness. How many people?
25,000.
25,000, okay? No microphones, outside in Philly. It's hard to hear people in our gym, right? And he's outside in Philly doing this. How does he figure out that there's 25,000 people?
He calculates like the radius of like a half circle and then
Okay.
based off how far away you walk from the bottom of the stairs where the guy was.
Great. I love this. This shows you how Franklin thinks, okay? So most of us would probably show up and be like, wow, he's loud, right? Franklin, I mean, this is the kind of guy, he's like, he created bifocals. He did the lightning rod, the key on the kite thing. He's also ambassador to France. He's postmaster general, started the U.S. Post Office, basically. He does all this stuff because he's so curious. He's an inventor. In his house, we found all kinds of bodies buried in his basement. Not because he killed people, but because we're pretty sure his friend, who was a doctor, cutting open dead bodies was illegal at the time. But
Experimenting.
they're learning. So he had a friend who was a doctor, and we're pretty sure he got bodies for him and put them in his basement so he could do the whole cadaver thing and learn how the body works, okay? So he's a unique, curious individual, and so when he goes to this, he's like, okay, someone said he could speak to 20,000 people. I don't believe it. Here's Whitfield up on these steps. I'm gonna go here, and I'll walk backwards until I can't hear him anymore. And then boom, I know I got my radius here. So if we do like a semicircle, and then he gives like 2 square feet for every person, and he does the math to get the area and the 2 feet per square person, and he concludes he could speak to 25, 30, 40,000 people. And that's the way Franklin's mind works, okay? Some of these guys, Thomas Jefferson, like, he's an inventor, and he's the writer of the Declaration of Independence. They do a lot of these things. Thomas Jefferson made a chair that swivels. Okay, he made a pen where when he wrote a note, it would be attached to another pen, so he'd have a copy of whatever he wrote. Like, they're just kind of unique individuals that are doing a lot of things. So I like that, kind of shows how Whitfield thinks there. It also, Franklin thinks. It also shows, like, Franklin was like, he says he never believed that generals of old could really speak to their troops.
Oh yeah.
And now he's like, oh, I guess they could. Like, maybe Julius Caesar, what made him so great was because his ability to speak to 30,000 and motivate 30,000 men. So just the way Franklin thinks. I think it's interesting there. Okay, anything else about oratory skills? Matt? Sorry, Diego, Matt's behind you.
It said that, Franklin said that enormous amounts of people from all denominations would come to him.
Great, so I told you we had a divided Protestantism, this united them, so we see that. Many different churches coming to see him. Booth?
Well, not only did it draw in huge crowds, he got people to respect and admire him, and he would even, I read a part where he would even like condemn people.
Yes.
And that wouldn't affect his popularity.
Okay.
He still came to his sermons.
Good, okay, excellent. Maya?
It was just, he said his speaking was so good that even people that didn't care for like religious things or what he was talking about would still listen.
Okay, and you know, in that part, Luke started us off with the coins. He said he had another friend who he purposely left his money at home, and he had to try to borrow money from a friend to give it. So he has this ability for people that even against him or don't want to hear him, he wins over. Supposedly, kind of the myth around him is that he could say the word Mesopotamia, and at the word Mesopotamia, women would swoon. I've tried it. I mean, I've taught world history. No girls have ever passed out when I said Mesopotamia. So I don't know. But he's an amazing orator. He's a great speaker. Franklin says in here about, like, he's seen him preach the same sermon several times, and it got better and better. So he's a skilled orator, actor, presenter. Yes?
Do you think there's like anybody now that's like him?
I think we almost can't know because of the skill of having to speak to 30,000 people. So there are some actors that are amazing. And when we talk about Whitefield, he began as an actor before he became a clergyman. So my guess is there's some that could get close to equaling that, but I don't know. I mean, the ability to speak to 30,000 people, I can't imagine that. So
We would never know.
we wouldn't. I wish there was a recording. You know, that's something where, again, no microphones, no recording devices. Okay. Anything else on that one? Okay. Let's go to the last question. Well, last question that we'll probably get to today. That was Luke. Diego, what do you learn about Benjamin Franklin's spiritual condition? So I gave you a little bit of that.
He wasn't like a religious person, but like he still like was affected by Whitfield's like speaking.
Okay, so he has some type of religious affection going on from it. Maria?
It said he would pray from time to time.
Okay, so he prays from time to time, and I talked about him praying too. Excellent, that's good. So he's got something there. Anything else? There's a very funny interaction that he gives between him and Whitefield. Did anyone catch it?
I don't know about the interaction, but like it also did say that he said it was like wonderful to see the world growing more religious.
Okay, so he very much thought religion is good for the people. And so he sees this and thinks it's good for Philly. Maria?
The interaction, I think it was like where he needed a place to stay, and then like Whitfield like offered him, and then he was like, this isn't like for any like kind of like way to like persuade him to like be like religious and stuff. That he was like gonna just be nicer about it.
Okay, so this is a funny statement. So listen to him here. So they're friends enough that Whitfield's coming to town, and Franklin says, "You know my house. If you can make do with my scanty house, you can stay here." And then Whitfield says, "If I made the offer for Christ's sake, I will be rewarded." That's what Whitfield tells Franklin. And Franklin says, "I return. Don't let me be mistaken. It was not for Christ's sake, but for your sake." Okay? I'm not doing it for Jesus. I'm doing it for you. And he says the reason is because he knows the custom of some of the preachers when they receive a favor to shift the burden of obligation from their own shoulders and place it in heaven. So I was fixing it on earth. In other words, he's seeing preachers where you do something nice for them and they're like, "God will bless you." And he's like, no, you bless me, okay? I gave you a place to stay, you bless me. Don't tell me God's gonna bless me. When I was in college, there's this kid who would come around and went to a Christian college, and he'd walk up to you and be like, "Do you want to bless a brother?" And I'd be like, "How about a ride to the mall?" So finally, my guy was just like, "Stop. Just ask me for a ride to the mall. Don't like couch it in, do you want to bless me?" You know, because then, like, what am I going to say? No, I don't want to bless you. So you're totally using it. And so that's what Franklin sees in these preachers And he's like, no way. Whitfield, here's the deal. You can stay with me, but I'm doing it for you, not for Jesus. You should return the favor, okay? And so I love that about Franklin. He's very funny. All right, that's good. Friday's here. We're done. Have a good weekend.